Newsfirst, NEWSLINE with Faraz Shauketaly.
And a solidly good morning to you. This is NEWSLINE Live. We're broadcasting live from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And post the ascendancy to the presidency of the seventh president of Sri Lanka, President Nandasena Gotabaya Rajapaksa, yesterday, and ahead of his taking office this morning, we've got with us a guest who has braved the odds and appeared on one of the most balanced privately held networks in the nation, Mr. Taraka Palasuri. He's made several appearances before, and we're very glad that he's here this morning. Very good morning to you, Mr.
Good morning,
Taraka.
Faraz.
And indeed, what a campaign! What a result! A great victory to President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. How are we going to refer to him? Because, you know, from a media standpoint, when we say President Rajapaksa, it could always mean the other President Rajapaksa. Can we call him President Rajapaksa II?
Well, I think, you can refer to him as President Rajapaksa. Usually a former president is referred to as a former president.
But they're always presidents, because, the Americans, whenever they refer to their formers, they don't say former, they just say President Rajapaksa.
Well, they use the term junior and senior with the Bushes.
Ah, yes. Should we call him junior?
I think you can call him anything you want to call him,
But the best thing is that he is the president.
Yes.
Undoubtedly.
Indeed.
And, when Sajid Premadasa made his the statement where he said, and he acknowledges the victory to President Rajapaksa, I thought to myself, this is the return of gentlemanly politics to Sri Lanka after a long, long, long absence. And when we looked at that campaign, no matter what was sort of thrown at your candidate, he didn't retaliate personally. I thought that was some great trait, that he didn't engage. He had a torrid time on various issues.
Yeah, but I don't think this campaign itself was, I think, as dirty as it gets. So, with the things which were thrown at each particular campaign.
Yeah.
So, just because, let's say, even if the top two candidates didn't criticize one another,
yeah,
I don't think that's a yardstick to measure whether the campaign had moved in the right direction or not.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, the people of Sri Lanka chose security as their prime concern, and quite rightly too, I suppose, judging by whatever it is, because there is a saying, isn't there, that if you want peace, you need to be ready for war. How far do you agree?
No, I don't necessarily agree that the security was the only concern.
It wasn't the only concern; it was the primary concern.
It was one of the major concerns, but you can't forget the economy. No. It regressed from 2014 till the second quarter. The figures are at 1.6%. So, and there were many factors, I think, which contributed. It's just that the inefficiency of the Yahapalana government, because basically nothing got done during that 4.5 years.
It was all a bit of talk. Nobody actually walked the talk.
Exactly. So I think it was reflected in the vote.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't just the question of.
But it's remarkable, isn't it, that the public, if you're looking at the wider picture, that how well the public were able to keep themselves informed, and how they themselves were able to distinguish between fake news and real news, and so Uncle Google came in handy often, isn't it? Have you had a chance to reflect on how ahead everyone has got, in the sense that they can sort of work out for themselves which is real and which is false?
No, actually I haven't. But do you really think we have got ahead? I think, you know, if you...
Well, I mean, everyone, when you're confronted with outrageous sort of information, people, even within groups on WhatsApps and so on, you know, the people say, but don't post this because it doesn't look true.
I think information was, you know, decimated at a fast rate, but the information which was decimated from both sides, it could have been originated in order to, you know, swing opinion in one way. And I think, you know, with the media too, you know, to a certain degree, I know whenever I make the statement that, you know, the media people get a bit defensive, but I'm saying
we don't get defensive over here, because you know what, we've got in writing that we were the most balanced.
I'm sure, but irrespective of that, I think that the general perception of the public was that, you know, even the media stations were more interested in creating an opinion, rather than actually creating an opinion, rather than actually decimating the actual news. And I think that happens all over. You know, I remember the famous interview CNN Jack Chirac did with Christina Anpo before the Gulf War, and you know, she goes to the extent of, you know, accusing you know, France not being a US ally, and there are weapons of mass destruction, and you know, we should go and, you know, inevitably invade Iraq. And then when you look at it with hindsight, with, you know, 10 years afterwards, then you realize that, you know, maybe, well, her as a brilliant reporter as she is, you know, I think, you know, either she was trying to create an opinion, or she was, you know, completely misinformed. So I don't know whether, especially with the technological age, and I think, you know now, maybe in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, you will see, well, you still have the technology right now, you know, create a picture image of a candidate and then, you know, make a false statement. So in I don't know, 10 or 20 years' time, it will be very difficult for people to really fathom what's actually correct and what's actually not.
Let's move on now to this wonderful victory for Gotabaya Rajapaksa, and some would say against all odds, and others would say no, he was the right man at the right time. Nevertheless, the people have spoken. His principal candidate acknowledged defeat long before the final results were in, and he did his numbers, obviously thanks to his LSE training. He did the numbers and he knew he couldn't come forward, and so he quit and acknowledged the defeat in a very gentlemanly way. It was 2 months versus 2 years and all that sort of thing. And if you look at it, both have acted very gentlemanly.
Absolutely.
And so that's a very good thing. Then, yesterday, it was pointed out to me, and I'm very grateful for this insightful analysis, because some people say that there is this national problem, a national question, and so on. But I want to just put it into perspective. If we examine the vote, the Sri Lanka Podu Jana Peramuna, the SLPP candidate, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, he won. He's today the president, and he polled 52.25%, or 6.9 million votes out of 13.2 million of acceptable votes. Now, if we ask the question, who is Gotabaya Rajapaksa? I could ask you, who is Gotabaya Rajapaksa? What is his ethnicity? And the answer will be that he is a Sinhalese Buddhist. Now then, if we look at the other candidate, the other main one, Sajit Premadasa, he polled 41.99%, or 5.5 million. Now, and who is he? He is also a Sinhalese Buddhist. Now, people who sort of say that, you know, the minorities are very uncomfortable with that whole notion, they had every opportunity. They could have voted for Tamil candidates, or Muslim even, but they didn't. I think one of the Tamil candidates got around about 400 votes. 400 out of a potential 13.2 million is peanuts. The point being that they chose, I believe, on ideological basis. They felt that, well, this candidate can do better for them. But so did the others. I don't think this whole issue of Sinhala Buddhist and all that business is a real consideration, because it can't be. If it was, do you get what I'm trying to say? The point being that it appears to me that some people play this national problem card for their own collateral purpose, but the people are not subscribing to that. Is that an analysis you looked at?
No, not really.
But does it make sense?
I think here's the problem. The problem is, a presidential, candidate goes out on a platform of several promises or several principles, saying that he's going to do this. Yeah. So we can't really pinpoint exactly what people voted for him.
Okay, but in that case, then what did Premadasa? He didn't promise a separate state or a separate union, or he didn't propose to split the country. Yeah. He went on his manifesto, and Mr. Rajapaksa went on his, and as did the others, and the people have chosen.
Yeah.
So this business about, one has to make it clear that both the leaders are from the majority in terms of the community.
Yeah.
But there's not. What I'm trying to say is this national issue didn't come into play, or if it did, it wasn't obvious to us.
No, I think the certain groups would vote in order to better their to the candidate they feel would better their final objectives.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like that. The famous mathematician John Nash came up with this thing called the game theory. It says there's a film about him. Watch it. It's very good. Mm-hmm. So it's a bit similar to that. Right. But you can't come to the conclusion that that there's no national issue just because the Tamils voted for two single candidates. Mm-hmm. I think the national issue has evolved, and then it has evolved from maybe certainly maybe in the 70s a question of discrimination to more of a question of Tamil aspirations, and particularly aspirations of Tamil politicians in order to get involved.
You're getting closer to the problem. You've just mentioned the right word. Politicians.
Politicians, yes. Yeah. Yes, I think. I think the average Tamil person I'm not the person who should be talking on behalf of a Tamil in the sense. I think one of their representatives should be talking on behalf of them. But generally, what I see is that most people in Sri Lanka would want to be better off economically, and then raise their families and their children.
That's a human trait. On Newsline Live, we encourage you to send us your questions by SMS 0772 300 305. We should have a card up on the screen. We are on in conversation live with Taraka Balasuriya, who is a member of Parliament from the Kegol district. Now then, actually, Tarak, if I may say so, there is nothing to say that the people of the North should be spoken to by one of theirs. Actually, every politician has every right to speak about every citizen in this country.
I didn't mean it in that sense.
No.
I think when it's to do with the political aspirations of certain people. Their people need to represent the political aspirations of that group. It's not the Sinhalese who should be saying, well, this is what you need and this is what you deserve.
They shouldn't be dictating. That's what you mean.
Exactly. So then it should be a discussion with the Tamil politicians and the Sinhalese politicians on the how much the involvement that Tamil politicians should be in governing this country.
This morning, as President Rajapaksa goes into his office and settles down with his secretary to helping him with the sort of interim arrangements. Dr. P.B. Jayasundara taking their office this morning, getting down to work. Have you thought of this? That and having just discussed the national question, have you thought of this? Sajid Premadasa got 5.5 million votes, and President Rajapaksa Jr. got 6.9 million votes. Do you think that there is, in my utopian world, do you think that there is space for President Rajapaksa to say to Sajid Premadasa, come and be my Prime Minister, come, let's join hands together, because then we have the whole country with us? Do you think that's a possibility?
No.
Do you think it's a good idea?
No.
Why?
I think that experiment was, tried out 5 years ago, and it failed. Certainly, if the best thing which Sajid Premadasa...
No, it didn't fail.
It did.
The last time, the partnership was between one person who had a mandate and a Prime Minister who was a Member of Parliament. This time round, last time round, the candidate, there was no candidate Wickremesinghe. You know what I mean? The two was President Sirisena and President Rajapaksa then. And what I'm saying here today is that you have two candidates, one won, the other lost. And if you want to pursue a real, truly national government, would it be a thought?
No, I mean,
do you think it won't work?
We all don't need to hold hands and sing Kumbaya.
Right.
Okay? I think what we need to agree on is, a set of national policies, and that easily can be done out. If the candidate Sajid Premadasa is genuine in his attempts, he can set out his manifesto against Gotabaya Rajapaksa's manifesto and say that these things will match.
You sound to me as though what you're saying is that the winner takes it all. The spoils of war to the winner, that sort of thing. Because when we look at somebody else's... thank you for your questions, thank you very much. One of the questions coming in from the north is, it says here that you appear to be biased because Tamils are not, Tamils and minorities are not all terrorists. They are as much citizen Sri Lanka as you and I are.
So did I even use the word terrorist?
They didn't.
Yeah. So then, how did
I don't know.
She came to that? No.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I am biased because I represent a certain political party. But I think just as much as that person who SMS you is biased, to come up with the assumption saying that
No, what we're saying is what we're trying to point out that the analysis was that the minorities, including the Tamils and the Muslims, voted for one or the other. There was two people, both the main two people. Both the main two people are Sinhalese Buddhists. So there can't be any sort of on the part of the minorities. There can't be any fear of either one of them because they've chosen A or B, Gota or Sajid. And the figures are there. There is none of this business about, oh, well, I'm Tamil, I'm going to vote for... if they wanted to, they could have voted for Shivajalingam, they could have voted for Hizbullah's man, they could have voted for anyone else. But they didn't. That's the point I'm trying to say is they chose along the lines of two major parties which have ruled this country from 1948 to now.
I'm not disputing that, but let's say, in the general election or something, I think the percentage which the two major parties will get in the general elections will be much lower than, let's say, Sajid Premada, UMP won't get 95%, 85% of the vote in Jaffna. I think, the Tamil...
well, I think that will all depend on the commitment of our president, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, to go out there, because he said it. He said that he wants everyone to join hands with him.
Of course, my contention is not that with regard to the, with regard to the question which you raised, that the two Sinhalese candidates contested, and then there was a Tamil candidate, and the minorities voted for one of the two Sinhalese candidates. But because, and I agree with you saying that, because it was on the basic ideology that they thought that this candidate will provide better solutions to whether it's their political aspirations or whether it's their economic needs or whatever, for their security or whatever. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have political aspirations, or it doesn't necessarily mean that there's no national issue, because the voting pattern certainly will change in the general elections. The UMP will get less than 10% of the vote in the north. The SLPP will get less than 10% of the percentage of the vote in the north, and basically the regional parties will take over. So that's basically my explanation.
Do you agree that there is a sort of master-slave situation in the former conflict areas? Because this is based on a question that I'm receiving from up there. When the LTT was ruling, whatever, the LTT decided that Tamils had to obey. Today, whatever the TNA decides, Tamils have to follow. Do you agree about that?
No, I don't agree with that. I think, the All Ceylon Tamil Congress, which has taken a more of a harder line, we saw during the last local council elections that, they have made significant gains. But for the moment, the only alternative for the Tamils in the north seems to be the TNA. But with politics, I think, if different alternative groups come up, it can change.
Were you aware whether this is another question, whether people were like Mrs. Bandranaika, Mrs. Kumaratunga, sorry, were invited for this for the inauguration yesterday? Because they're saying here that presidents Sirisena and Chandrika and many others were missing at yesterday's ceremony in Anuradhapura. Were they invited?
I don't know. I have no idea, but I certainly hope from a personal perspective that Chandrika Kumaratunga was not invited.
Really? Why are you saying that? As a former president.
Well,
we're trying to have a new beginning.
New beginnings are all right, but but we also have to be realistic, and this is supposed to be a very auspicious event, and I certainly don't want that somebody Chandrika come in and throwing that the negative energy over there.
Oh,
yes.
You didn't want the sanctity of the occasion to be destroyed.
Well, that's my personal opinion. That's
yes,
why I said
it's not mine opinion.
It's not the party's opinion, so it's my personal opinion.
Right. I just thought that it'd be nice to everybody to put bygones be bygones, get together and work in the interest of the people, the national interest.
Well, in that case, you should ask, Madam Chandrika Bandaranaike whether she's willing to let bygones be bygones.
Here you go. This question from a person who's saying to me, or to us, between the two contestants, they have almost 13 million. Since there are clear divisions where the vote went, would it not be an excellent idea for the two contestants to join hands immediately you unite all the people in one fell swoop, in which is the best way to get the country to go forward. It's not finished yet. It's a long message. Both contestants are able men and together would do so much good for the country. Your guest seems smart, but being small-minded would not help the country.
Well, if they want to join, let them join, but the practicalities of politics is very different from that. I think now look what's happening at the UMP. So they just had a massive defeat. Yeah. Then the whole of the UMP can unite and say that
but I think they're being very gentlemanly, aren't they? Because they've various people who were at the forefront of bringing in Sajid Premadasa and to bringing change at the UNP have resigned their positions. Mangala Samarawira has resigned, Manik Samaravikrama has resigned, Kabir Hashim has resigned, and several others.
But I think it's also the Sajid's faction which doesn't want to go for a general election now, and it's the Ranil faction which wants to go for a general election. So if they're so gentlemanly and if they're so concerned about the country, why not go for a general election?
I believe that's going to happen soon, isn't it?
Well, it's going to happen in 3 months' time. So then it'll take another 2 months for the general elections to come. So so the Sajid's faction is like let the country suffer, with this instability until this 6 months. Who's going to be the prime minister? And it's going to be a minority. It's going to be a minority government. So that's not going to do well for the country for the next 6 months. So the best thing, if Sajid is Sajid and his fractions, as you say, are so honourable and gentlemanly,
well,
the best thing. Well,
as much as Mr. Rajapaksa has been himself.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think in the interest of the country, now clearly, Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa has got a mandate. He has laid out a vision and a manifesto, and he has pledged that he wants to implement it all. So clearly, in the interest of the country, the best thing to do is to allow the man to do his job. And in order to do that, he needs to have the government support. So the best thing for that is for the UMP MPs to support a motion to dissolve the government.
I want to say this to you. You're a fine one to talk about the UNP split or whatever, because look at what happened to the SLFP. That's why you have the SLPP. Because they couldn't you guys couldn't agree within your party.
No, I'm not talking about the split. I'm talking about that,
You're saying that
Sajid's faction is not supporting, from what I heard, it's not supporting the dissolution of Parliament. So
are they worried about their pensions?
Exactly. I don't know. I think the
Are you worried about your pension?
No, I'm not.
You don't really care about that?
Well, you get only 13,500, and I think, if you have turned...
What about if you do your full 5 years?
Yeah, I think, if you... See, this is also a misconception, I think, which has been created by media.
Yeah. Well, here we go, the media again. Slap.
Well, I think, I think the MPs get a salary somewhere close to 6,000, and then you get, if you have, served up to 12 years, you get like 60% of your pension or whatever. Yeah. And I think if you have served, 5 years, I don't know exactly, maybe it's like, $20,000 or even less, maybe $13,000 or something like that.
Is that what it is? Is that all you get?
Yeah.
Is that going to be a pension?
That's going to be the pension.
What, is that based on your basic salary?
Yeah, based on his basic salary.
So your basic salary is how much?
I think somewhere around 60,000.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what you'll get?
Yeah.
It's not 13.
But if 60% or 55% of the basic salary.
I see. On Newsline Live, we encourage you to send us your questions, 0772 300 305. And thank you for having sent us your questions thus far. We're trying to get around to most of them. We are, of course, in conversation with Mr. Taraka Balasurian. And here we go. Let's see. What is, you say that it's the economy. What do you think President Gotabaya will put into play immediately?
Well, immediately it has already taken place yesterday. He has brought in hope and confidence. You saw the Colombo stock market, shooting up. I think John Gill's shares were like 5% up. So the confidence is already there. So we need to.
Well, I mean, I looked at it myself, and I have the app myself here. I looked at it, and the market's gone up by about 1.7%.
Yeah.
Around 106 points. It could be either here or there. It's not yet nothing remarkable. Though, having spoken to several brokers, they were all very confident. In fact, they told us this before the election result was known. They said that whoever wins, the market sentiment would pick up, because that's how markets are apparently. I spoke to several big investors on the market, and they all said that we are waiting for some good news.
Yeah, I think the economic plan to stimulate the economy by cutting taxes temporarily, and then then I think more investments from China will flow in. So we have a set of plans to bring in a simplified tax structure, and in order to do that, we need to bring legislation in Parliament.
Yeah. And
in order to do that, you need to have parliamentary majority. So that's why I feel that in the best interest of the country, that the UMP should support the SLPP in order for going for an election. But I do understand that from political point of view, that it might be the most disadvantaged moment for them to go for an election, fresh after a loss in a presidential election. So I do understand that if they want to buy that time, buy the, let's say, the 3 months or whatever that time, hoping that the public sentiments would change in that time. But
so what let me get this right. What you're articulating is that President Rajapaksa has won, and you're saying that there are elements within the United National Party who do not want a general election now, but it is a general election that your party wants. Is that have I said it right?
No, it doesn't matter to us. For our party, whether the general election comes in 3 months' time or whether it comes now. I think what I'm saying is politically it will be more advantageous to us and then disadvantageous to the UMP if a general election comes right now.
Right.
Yeah, but what I raised this point was that saying that since we were talking about gentlemanly politics and being honourable and looking at the best interest of the country, what would be in the best interest of the country would be to go for a general election and then get a fresh mandate from the people, and then let Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa carry forward his manifesto.
I'm actually a little bit sad, because I thought that you could balance things out here, and it appears to me that what you're saying is, look, we won, and so it's our agenda and we don't want anyone else. Is that what you're saying? In the sense that when I say to you, why not join hands with and have, because last time they had a national government which just didn't work out at all. Right, it was just ill-fated from the beginning. But here you have two people who are committed.
Join hands for the 3 months. Are you referring to the next 3 months?
Well, it might be an idea.
Yeah, I have no objection for having an interim government and then working on a common agenda for the next 3 months. But the reality of it is that even after 3 months, the general election is due.
Of course, it's due.
So then the political dynamics changes. Yeah. So I mean, let's not go on this utopian path saying that we can all hands and then this is going to work out, that's going to work out, or let's not put words into others' mouths saying that we are rejecting others. I very clearly, categorically state that we need to come up with national policies. And then we can work with the UMP, we can work with the JVP and the TNA in coming up with those national policies.
Yeah.
And let's say now we have come up with a manifesto.
Right.
And if the TNA or the JVP or the UMP states that, well, if you do this adjustment to this manifesto,
yeah,
maybe this might work out better. Yes, definitely we can work out, we can work out on those lines. Yeah, but the reality is that, a general election is due in 3 months. So, by the time we get this, discussion started and, coming out with the arrangements, and how slowly things get done between political parties, yeah, the general election is due. So I think it makes all the more sense.
It's due in June.
The Parliament it will be dissolved.
Term.
Yeah, Parliament can be dissolved in March 2nd. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Parliament can be dissolved at the President's pleasure.
Yeah.
In March.
Yeah.
At the end of February.
Yeah.
But if he wasn't to exercise his pleasure,
yeah,
then the Parliament will run till about June.
Yeah.
Right. But you want it before.
Yeah, why would he not? If he doesn't have parliamentary majority,
yeah,
to carry out his,
yeah,
carry out. Do you think Sajid Premadasa, if he had won, he would not exercise that? Anybody with a rational mind would exercise that the option of
right,
dissolving Parliament.
Are you disclosing that there has been no no talk of a sort of national interim government?
No, I'm not privy to that information, so
right,
I really wouldn't know, because it's just been a few days,
right,
and then the swearing in was, we still haven't met as a group after the parliamentary, the group has not met, so I think the discussions will take place later on.
What is your analysis of the resignations of these other ministers in the cabinet then?
I think it's the rightful thing to do. I think it's the rightful thing to do.
Because why? Because
the people have spoken, and people have given a mandate to a certain candidate to carry out his program.
Yeah.
Okay, so then
that's a presidential mandate.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't you think that they resigned on principle? Don't you think they resigned on principle, Tariq?
I don't know whether they resigned on principle or not. I think that's a question that you should ask them.
Yeah,
but these are the deficiencies of the 19th Amendment also. We need to take that into mind. By locking a parliament for 4.5 years,
yeah,
or locking a parliament at 4.5 years.
Now you're talking.
This is what can happen.
Yeah.
And then, if you look at the logic of it, a prime minister can function with a majority of parliament, but then that that same parliament cannot be dissolved with a majority in parliament. In order for that parliament to be dissolved, you need to have a supermajority.
Yeah.
That itself, for me, is very illogical. If a parliament can function with the majority, then the parliament should be able to be dissolved with a majority too. Mm-hmm. So, but these manipulations which the Yapalna government brought into the constitutions, these are the consequences which we are facing right now.
I think this message is quite appropriate. It says here, please don't worry about the rhetoric. Stick to the fundamentals and let leadership lead by consensus.
I appreciate the concern.
Is that you let leadership lead by consensus?
I just, I explained that the whole situation with with the limited time for the general elections. Mm-hmm. If we need to agree on a caretaker government, so be it. Or if it's a minority government, so be it. But I think anybody who understands politics would understand that in order for Gotabaya Rajapaksa to carry out his mandate, that parliamentary majority is needed. And what I'm saying is, in the interest of not a political party but interest of the country, if the politicians are so gracious enough to do, the best thing to do is to go for a national election. Indeed.
Now that what do you think first thing will happen as soon as Mr. President Rajapaksa settles into his office today? Is he going to appoint a governor of the central bank? Is he going to appoint a minister of finance? He needs all these things immediately, like that, doesn't he?
I think he needs to appoint the secretary to the president.
Yeah.
And then I think
But I think we're already privy to that now, aren't we?
We know who.
It's Dr. P.B. Jayasuriya.
Yes, an excellent choice. I think, a brilliant man. I've had several discussions with him,
Right.
and
But he'd rather be, surely in his retirement, he'd rather be planting mangoes and enjoying retirement.
Well, if you're still capable at a certain age, there's no harm in someone can be saying the same thing to you, saying that you should be enjoying your retirement, or Lee Kuan Yew could be enjoying, or Mahathir Mohamad should be enjoying his retirement. But I think if if you are good at what you do, and if you're passionate at what you do, and and if you can contribute, I see no harm in people doing what they're passionate about.
And how passionate is President Gotabaya Rajapaksa?
I think he's very passionate about the direction and the future of the country.
Yeah.
And I was also very pleased in his speech that he said that he would not tolerate corruption. So I truly hope that he would take strong measures in order to curb corruption. And then I was also very pleased that that he said that he would not be afraid to exercise his executive powers if needed. So I think that with the former president, what we saw was that he always made it an excuse, saying that, well, we are a coalition, well, they got me into power, so then I shouldn't be using my executive powers. And we saw that. We saw how harmful it was, because the ex-president introduced his executive powers, such as in the case of the bond. The central bank bond scam. So if he had the executive, as executive president, he had the exercise his power, then maybe the second scam in 2016 March, we probably could have avoided it. So I was very happy that he made those particular comments in how he wants to run the country.
Now then, thank you ever so much. There's so many questions here. One question is that how much of the past will shape the future?
In what sense?
How much of the past will shape the future? How much are we going to learn from the lessons of the past when we consider the road of the future?
Of course, of course, people should learn from their past, and and avoid the mistakes which they have done in the past. And I certainly hope that that will be the case. But also,
how are we going to get past all this international concern about this, that, and the other? About they keep going on about. They already interfered in the process of the United Nations very unfairly, reducing our peacekeeping troops there.
Yeah.
Soon after the appointment of General Shavendra.
Yeah.
And it all from a Sri Lanka perspective is interference.
Yeah.
But it's only going to get worse, not any better.
Yeah.
The international community have watched Messrs. Sirisena and Wickremesinghe trying to sort this out.
Yeah.
They've bought time, they've argued, they've put it on the back burner a little bit, only to bring it forward, especially in October last year,
Yeah.
and so on. So how's that going to get sorted out?
Well, I think a position of neutrality doesn't mean a position of inaction.
Yeah.
And what's happening in Asia now is more to do with geopolitics of Asia.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of countries in Asia that have the same pressure as we do.
Right.
And then I think the small countries can come together in the same way that like Nehru came up with the non-aligned movement in order to somewhat withstand the global powers, or at least to make a moral case of not wanting to be interfered with.
Well, another question: will they sign the MCC agreement?
No, we won't be signing it. Not in its present terms.
Right.
Not in its present terms.
Well, I wasn't going to mention the bond.
Yeah.
You did. But there are several questions about the bond, and Mr. Balasuri has sort of expressed that opinion, that view. But guess what? We've come to the end of 45 minutes. So thank you very much, Tarak Balasuri. I hope and I wish you all the best. I wish you unity, because it's unity that the whole country needs. And I go back to my point that both candidates were singular Buddhist candidates, and the bulk of the 13,252,499 votes the bulk of that was chosen for either one or the other. And on that note, that's the way it was on Newsline Live. Take care, have a wonderful day ahead, and God bless Sri Lanka.